Episode 5 of the Ahsoka show, Shadow Warrior, is out now, and it's another fantastic episode, with big ramifications for the future of Star Wars. Spoilers ahead in 3, 2, 1. Anakin teaches Ahsoka a final lesson in A World Between Worlds. Captain Rex makes his first live-action appearance, and Ahsoka becomes Ahsoka the White, much like Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. So firstly, let's break down a plot for episode 5, then go into my ratings and discuss the positives and negatives of the episode. Hera, Jason and Chopper arrive on Cetos, and after finding Huyang, they search the area around the henge. Jason, tapping into the Force, can hear lightsaber noises from the water below. In A World Between Worlds, below the henge, Anakin has one last lesson to teach Ahsoka: live or die.
Live or die.
Anakin and Ahsoka fight, and after Ahsoka seems to have the upper hand, Anakin cuts a path they are standing on and Ahsoka falls down. The screen goes purple and we see young Ahsoka during the Clone Wars. Ahsoka and Anakin are in a live-action version of their Clone Wars animated show outfits. They are fighting alongside the clones. Ahsoka is confused, but pushes through the battlefield with her master. After the battle, Ahsoka sees injured clones and holds the hand of a dying trooper. Young Ahsoka talks to Anakin about the burden of leadership and the role of the Jedi as keepers of the peace versus being soldiers in the Clone Wars. In the background, we see Captain Rex and the 501st, and Ahsoka and Anakin's conversation is cut short as another assault begins. Anakin ominously flashes from Jedi to Darth Vader numerous times during the flashbacks. We then switch back to Hera and Huyang, who are scanning for Ahsoka, as Chopper seems to have picked something up from his scanners in the water below. We then cut to Ahsoka during the siege of Mandalore, and after Captain Rex and the clones finish the assault, Anakin returns to fight Ahsoka, now with a red lightsaber in hand. Young Ahsoka struggles against Anakin's attack, and she is kicked back into the World Between Worlds. Ahsoka, now at her present-day age, disarms Anakin and spares his life. Anakin's Sith eyes disappear, and he says,
"There's hope for you yet."
Water surrounds Ahsoka, and she floats back up to the ocean surface, where she is rescued by one of Hera's X-Wing pilots. Ahsoka wakes up on her T6 starship, reflecting on the events of the World Between Worlds. Huyang tells her that she's been asleep for one full rotation, and she meets up with Hera and Jason, who are waiting for her at the henge. Jason then goes with Huyang to Ahsoka's training room, hinting at future Jedi training for Hera and Kanan's son. Ahsoka holds on to the broken star map that Baylan cut in half last episode, and uses it to recall past events where Sabine gave the map to Baylan and joined him and Shin on the Eye of Sion. Carson informs Hera that the New Republic are on their way to Cetos, and Mon Mothma calls Hera to warn her that her position as Admiral is under threat, and she will have to return to Coruscant or face losing her role permanently. Ahsoka, still at the henge, looks up and hears Purgle wails, and says to Hera,
"I know how to follow Sabine."
Now donning the white robes, Ahsoka and Huyang board their T6 ship, and Hera with Jason and Chopper follow her in the Ghost, as they head towards the Purgles. Ahsoka communicates with the largest of the whales, and he opens his mouth, and Ahsoka and Huyang land the T6 inside the Purgle. The New Republic fleet arrive at Cetos, and after Carson buys Ahsoka some time, the Purgles fly towards the fleet. The New Republic ships move aside, and the Purgles with Ahsoka and Huyang enter hyperspace, hopefully to the new beyond to catch up with Sabine, Ezra and Thrawn. Before going over my takeaways for the episode, here are the ratings. Plot scores 9, entertainment value scores 10, characters and performances 9, visuals 9, music gets a 10, and the ending scores 10, which leaves my overall score for the episode at 95%. Just like episode 4, I didn't want this one to end. From the Clone Wars flashback to the Purgle whales entering hyperspace, every moment was enthralling. So on that note, let's start off with the positives I had for the episode. Ahsoka, who I acknowledge was a bit wooden in the first few episodes, has now been reborn as Ahsoka the White. In a journey almost identical to Gandalf's, she visually changes in her adoption of white robes, and she appears to be much less driven by fear for Sabine and guilt for Anakin. The lessons that Anakin taught her in the World Between Worlds was to keep on fighting, and resist the anxiety and fear that led to his fall to the dark side. And a result from this is that we now have a more interesting lead character, who is less reserved and less arm-foldy. The journey Ahsoka has been through in just 5 episodes is really well told, and her character development, which was front and centre this episode, is very enjoyable to watch. The rest of the cast were also great. Even Hera and Jason didn't annoy me too much, which is quite an achievement, as I really didn't take to either one in previous episodes. Huyang has such emotion as Ahsoka's companion, showing touching sadness as he holds Sabine's helmet on the henge, and his witty one-liners are brilliant. I am almost certain that he will die this season, and that worries me, as he's such a great character. But the standout performance this episode, of course, has to go to Hayden Christensen. Now, the dialogue in the prequels was terrible, and Hayden's performance, although quite good in the darker scenes, he was mostly monotone and dry. I don't think he was as bad as many said during the release of the prequels, but we can't rewrite history and say he was great. He's also done nothing of note since Revenge of the Sith, so those that try to argue that his performance in the prequels was perfect, I believe, are slightly overdoing it. That being said, his performance this episode was outstanding. Every word he spoke had such weight, and even when he said what on paper was a Jedi line, it came across as threatening and malevolent. He had great interactions with young Ahsoka, and a Jekyll and Hyde personality switch from light side Anakin to dark side Vader was so encapsulating. So hats off to Hayden for his role this episode. I'm also loving the ambition and scope of the show. We've got Clone Wars flashbacks with clone troopers, Atties and Republic gunships, the World Between Worlds, massive space whales, the Republic fleet, and a whole new galaxy to explore. Dave Filoni has really swung for the fences with the plot for Ahsoka, and the show is achieving what I thought was almost impossible. It's made me forget about the sequels and constant drama at Lucasfilm, and it's made me fall in love with Star Wars again. And however good or bad the rest of the season is, I for one am very glad this show was created, as it came at a time when, like many, I was falling out of love with Star Wars as a whole. We would get one good show such as Mando Season 2, then we would get the Book of Boba Fett, then another letdown with Kenobi, and then a mid-tier Mando Season 3. But the Ahsoka show is the most Star Wars thing that has come out since the Clone Wars animated show, and I'm loving it. With a score of 95%, I obviously have a lot more positives than negatives, but nonetheless, let's talk about the minor issues I had with episode 5. Young Ahsoka didn't look quite right. Rosario Dawson has the perfect look and mannerisms of Ahsoka, and just looks like Ahsoka brought from animation straight into live action. But Ariana Greenblatt, who some may know from the Adam Driver dinosaur movie 65 and Barbie, just doesn't look or really sound like Ahsoka. Her performance is fine, but it does venture into cosplay Ahsoka at times. Another cosmetic distraction this episode was Ahsoka without her headdress. When she was on her ship, just after being rescued by the X-Wing pilot, she woke up without her headdress. And the makeup line between her forehead and Leiku was quite distracting. This moment stood out because the character design and visuals have been pretty great up to now. And finally, like the other episodes, I still think that the runtime is too short. But apart from those minor gripes, Shadow Warrior was practically perfect. Episode 5 scores just less than Episode 4, and with the exception of the meandering third space battle episode, this show keeps on getting better and better. It's got what all good shows need: great music, brilliant visuals, and intriguing characters. And now it's really picking up steam with its pacing and performances. I really like our protagonists of the wise Ahsoka, funny and emotional Huyang, and conflicted Sabine, and I love the antagonists of Morgan Elsbeth, Baylan, and Shin. If Thrawn can deliver, and Ezra is not as cringy as Hera, then we're in for a great last 3 episodes of the show. On the series leaderboard, Ahsoka leaps up from 10th place to 5th, with an overall season score 5 episodes in of 87%, overtaking The Mandalorian Season 1 and Peacemaker. After episode 3, Ahsoka was in 15th place, so over the last 2 weeks, it's jumped up 10 places, showing just how good the last few episodes have been. I imagine at the end of the season, it'll be between 4th and 8th place, but could even break into the top 3. Compared to other Star Wars Disney Plus shows, Ahsoka is now in 4th place, just behind Tales of the Jedi. The series is separating itself from the more mediocre shows like Kenobi and Mando Season 3, and is gaining on Tales of the Jedi, Mando Season 2, and Andor. Shadow Warrior was such a great episode. There were amazing moments for hardcore fans, with Captain Rex scenes, Kanan Jarrus references, and live-action Clone Wars Anakin. Some brilliant lightsaber fights, and as always, a great score, especially at the end with the pod of Purgles embarking on their hyperspace journey, as well as nods to Lord of the Rings and Jonah and the Whale. This episode really had it all. Now I would like to know, what did you think of Shadow Warrior? Was it even better than episode 4 for you? What do you think will happen next? And are you, like me, also loving the series? If you're new here, then perhaps consider subscribing to Film Club. I'll be reviewing the next 3 episodes of Ahsoka over the next few weeks, and I've got a video coming out this weekend on a future of the 3 Star Wars films announced April this year at Star Wars Celebration. And yes, the dreaded words delayed, cancelled, and Kathleen Kennedy are mentioned in that video. So if you enjoyed my review and want to keep up to date on all things Star Wars and film, then please consider subscribing to Film Club. Thank you for watching, and see you again.